All right, what's up, everybody? Going to try something a little bit different here to make this more of like a podcast because I've just got too many goddamn topics to cover, basically. I would like to still be able to do some commentary videos, maybe be able to do some 1-2 topic videos without turning it into like a podcast. But I also like the idea of doing a podcast. I already do the goddamn podcast, as most of you know, every week on Tuesday, and I have enough topics here. When I was going over them, I was like, man, this is going to be a long fucking video, so why the hell not just do it like a podcast? And I guess first on my list, I have what has been going on with gold and silver. Now, gold, since the last video I made, I don't even remember what the prices were. That's how quickly everything is changing. Gold broke its all-time record of, what was it, 1940, I believe, was what it hit in September of 2011. Obviously, gold is over 2,000 now. Gold was even higher than this on Thursday. There was a really good day for gold and silver on Thursday. Silver made it up over 29 an ounce. I thought it was going to hit 30 by Friday. We did have a slight pullback. 28.43, man, as somebody who has several hundred ounces of silver, can't really complain about that. Now, you got to think about this. For those of you who don't stack gold and silver, this is one of the reasons I talk about it being such a good investment. Is it does really well in inflationary times, obviously. It does really good over the long term, which is what I stack for. But you think about this. Let's say you have 100 ounces of silver. Now, if you were like me, we were buying this stuff before it was even $20 an ounce. But let's say you bought it at $20 an ounce, and you have 100 ounces of silver, and silver goes up to $25 an ounce. Now, you might think $20 an ounce, $25 an ounce, what the hell difference does that make? It makes $500 difference if you just have 100 ounces. That's $500. Just from what was already sitting in your safe, in a box under your bed, wherever you keep your stack at. That's pretty good, right? Let's say it goes from $20 to $28 an ounce. You just made $800 just by owning it, just by holding it. And we were already buying it cheap anyways. Now, this isn't the pullback that we saw yesterday on Friday. I'm recording this on the 8th on Saturday. The pullback that we saw on Friday, I don't think is the overall pullback that we're going to see. I think we're going to see some bigger pullbacks, and obviously it's going to depend on what happens in November, where we end up by the end of the year. I think gold and silver are going to do good this year regardless. I think a Biden victory will push gold and silver even higher because the markets are going to have a really tough time if Biden becomes president. And I say that as, is it just me picking on Biden? I don't need that to pick on Joe Biden. I have plenty of Joe Biden material if I really wanted to pick on Joe Biden. But, the increased taxes, increased regulation, that doesn't bode well for consumer confidence. Say what you will about Donald Trump, a tax cut helped. Obviously, you can look at the stats, what it did for the stock market. Let's say you don't like it at all. Let's say you completely hate the fact that the government's stealing less of your money. Let's say you're weird like that. Let's say you're the opposite of me on that. And let's say you don't like that Donald Trump cut regulations. Be that as it may, the stock market definitely reacted to that. Consumer confidence soared. That's why the stock market got up to 29,000 before the coronavirus hit. So with Joe Biden coming in, that's definitely going to play a role in that. Obviously, when people do not look to stocks and see issues coming up with inflation, people tend to go to gold and silver. And even Bitcoin, which did really, really well over the past couple of weeks. I don't have any Bitcoin. I don't own any Bitcoin. I find it a very volatile market. I can't say that I recommend it, but in terms of just numbers, it definitely has done well over the past couple of weeks. And actually so far this year, especially since March, it's done well, but it's because people are trying to get out of that and get into safe havens. They're trying to get out of the clusterfuck economy that's going on. So gold and silver doing great. I love seeing gold break its all-time high. I do own gold as well. Obviously not as much as I would like to own, but yeah, it's nice to see the numbers roll up on that. I would love to also, there's that part of me, like I've said in past videos, that I would love to see the numbers roll down so I can get more of this shit. But here we are. All right, in this this next one is going to start off basically the rest of this podcast, or whatever you call this. And this is where the title of the episode that we're doing right now comes from, and that is, it wasn't just the college kids. Because I heard that for years. I heard it in 2015, 2016, 2017 when I had my Autopsy 87 channel. That, oh, Drew, it's just the blue-haired college kids. They're going to grow out of it. They're not a threat to anybody, yada, yada, yada. But the same nonsense it's in government, okay? We had the congressional Democrats introducing a bill to give the Federal Reserve a new mission. And that new mission will be to end racial inequality. And as some of the quotes that I've seen put it, racial inequity would actually be a new role for the Federal Reserve. Aside from printing, inflating, and artificially setting interest rates, which fucks up everyone's savings, they would have a new mission, ending racial inequality. The legislation would make minimizing racial disparities an official part of the central bank's mandate. Now, like I just said, as far as I'm aware, the Federal Reserve has a pretty limited role in that it's limited in the sense of their duties, but it's not limited in the sense of the horrific impacts it can have on our economy. Now, back in 1913, when the Federal Reserve Act was first passed, the Federal Reserve had a very limited duty, and that was to expand and retract the money supply, to create what was called elasticity in our money supply. So when the powers that be felt we needed more money in the economy to fix whatever, pump some out. When they feel, okay, it's too much, starting to have these effects, we kind of rein it back in. Basically, that's a very, very layman's explanation of what the Federal Reserve used to do. Now, that changed in the 1970s under Jimmy Carter when we had stagflation, which is high unemployment and very high price items. We saw the prices of things skyrocketing. I think it was the average inflation in the late 70s was like 12% a year. To put that into perspective, the Federal Reserve now aims for about 2 and 2.5% a year. So my question to that would be, what exactly would the Federal Reserve do to end racial inequality? Now, if you're Elizabeth Warren or Maxine Waters or Kirsten Gillibrand, who helped push this bill, if you're one of them, you might think Congress is supposed to do anything like that. If you're going to have any institution do that, it should be Congress, right? Because Congress actually makes the laws. Now, I don't think Congress can do anything about this. In fact, I think anything Congress tried to do to quote-unquote end racial inequality or inequity, I think it would absolutely backfire. And the reason I say that is because everything else that they've done has absolutely backfired. These people are great at sucking at their job. That's what the government is. Bureaucrats suck at their jobs. Because probably if they were good, they would be in the private sector actually, making money, providing useful services. We'll get to that. We have some more stuff coming up. So what exactly would the Federal Reserve do? I think it's a feel-good measure. Because they control the money printing and all that kind of stuff. But as far as I'm aware, they're not even involved in where the money is distributed. Now, if they want to do anything, and this is something I could get behind, I really wish a lot of people on the left could kind of get behind this more anti-Federal Reserve stance, that libertarian stake, is because the Federal Reserve is not actually federal and it doesn't have a reserve. Now that should ring some bells for them. This is not a government entity in the sense that the banks themselves, the 12 Federal Reserve banks, are actually private banks. They get the privilege of privacy under the law. But they are also ran by a board of governors who is appointed by the president and approved by Congress. So they're this weird bastardized mixture of private and public that was essentially made this way so that they could enjoy the privacy of a private bank, but also have the power that a public institution has. Obviously, they're the central bank. They're the only ones that can print money. They're the only ones that can create currency. They're in charge of all of that. But, of course, they get the blessing of being private in their actions, where they don't actually have to tell you what they're doing. We know this from Ben Bernanke. We know it from Janet Yellen. That's basically how the central bank operates. So, judging on that, what exactly can they do? I don't think they can do jack shit to stop this. And I think even if they tried, they would make it worse. And again, I know that because everything they have tried makes it worse. There's a reason that it takes $2,000 to buy an ounce of gold today, where back before we got off the gold standard, it was $35 an ounce. Back when the Federal Reserve Act first passed, it cost $20, maybe $30 to buy an ounce of gold. They've done so good that basically since 1913, we have lost like 99% of the value of our dollar. To put that in more perspective, there was an interesting point Peter Schiff made on a recent podcast. I told you guys I like Peter Schiff. That from 1792 until 1913, the dollar didn't lose much at all. Until we got the Federal Reserve. And really since the 1970s, because we got the gold standard, did we see such a decrease in the value of the dollar. So where now it takes $2,000, over $2,000, to just buy an ounce of gold. Now you could measure that any way you want to, but the purchasing power of the dollar has absolutely went to shit over those years. So no, I don't think they would be any better at ending racial inequality than they would be at preserving our currency, or the value of our currency. And if they really wanted to try, the first step should be to not slash interest rates and kill everybody's savings. You know who really could benefit the most from savings? Is people with lower incomes. And people with lower incomes in the United States tend to be minorities. So if you really want to help out minorities, you need to tell the Federal Reserve to knock that shit off and let rates be rates. How about that? But this is part of the ongoing theme here, because what we have next is Joe Biden says 4 black women are in the running to be his vice president. Now Biden has come out and all but said it's going to be a woman of color. He said it's going to be a woman, but that it's going to be a black woman is basically the line that's been run with. Okay, so Joe Biden is the Democrat candidate for president of the United States. In 3 months, we're going to decide whether this demented old fuck is going to be the president of the United States for the next 4 years, if he's alive for the next 4 years. And his criteria for vice president, this guy has already outlived the average American man. This guy's criteria for vice president is not only must the candidate have a vagina, but that vagina must be a certain shade darker than white. All right, that's seriously something people need to think about. People need to put that. You might hate Trump. I get it. I got it. I got my beefs with Trump. But to tell me 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, that it's just a bunch of blue-haired college kids doing dumb shit, that the next president of the United States, potentially this man, could have a vice president that is a diversity hire. That's the criteria. That's the starting criteria. Out of everything else, you could make your criteria. You could even say, I'm going to pick the best person for the job. And if it turns out to be a black woman, fine. Like, what does that say to your... Like, I'm imagining if you're one of these... If you're Susan Rice, or if you're Kamala Harris, or you're Karen Bass, who are on his short list, one of those three will most likely be his BP pick. If you're one of them and you get the job, and you have any sense of self-respect, now I don't know if those women do, but if you have any sense of self-respect, are you not just like, hey, did I just get this job because I'm a black chick? What the fuck is that? You're running for president of the United States. The odds, and look, people said this about John McCain, and they were right to say it. John McCain was an old dude. John McCain had bad health. John McCain picked a complete dipshit to be his VP. Now that's something to take into consideration whenever you're going to vote. Now if this guy is going to vote for someone based on nothing else, this is the baseline criteria, is they have to be a woman, and that it be a woman of color is basically what he's alluding to. To have that to be the criteria when you're running for president of the United States, and that is your basis for picking your running mate. Just a bunch of blue-haired college kids, right? Could be your next fucking president. Oh, but we'll move on. We'll get out of the racial sphere, and we'll get into Bernie Sanders. Now, this is some more regressive stuff, because everybody knows I have a beef with Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders proposing a one-time tax that would cost Jeff Bezos $42.8 billion, Elon Musk $27.5 billion, and it's called the Make Billionaires Pay Act, which I basically call the Steal from Millionaires tax. It's basically what it is. And the specifics of this thing is it would start, I think, March 18th. All the money made from March 18th all the way until January of this next year. Bernie would impose a 60% tax on all the wealth gains. Now here's where the real devil's in the details. What is a wealth gain? What are they talking about? What they're basically talking about is the amount of money that was made in the stock market on stocks that these people owned. You know, Elon Musk started Tesla. Jeff Bezos started Amazon in a garage. Okay? These businesses come up, they get real big. People invest because they see potential in making future profits. We have a situation like the coronavirus, where the state has forced everybody to stay home, by and large, forced people to do online shopping. They won't let people go out. They don't want people to go out. They're strongly incentivizing that you stay home unless you absolutely have to leave. And they do this for months. We're going on 5 months of this now. And part of that with online shopping means that a company like Amazon is going to see a lot of new business increases because people, again, are staying home. They're ordering things online. They're shopping online. They're doing curbside delivery at Walmart or Target or any of these places. But yet, when those companies make money by offering this voluntary service that's helping a lot of people, Bernie Sanders wants to swoop in and steal 60% of those wealth gains. 60 fucking percent. And so many people don't have a problem with this, and I think it's because we operate on a completely different set of principles here. Also, to go specifically into the stocks, the way that the stocks work, like when you see Jeff Bezos is valued at almost $300 billion, so much of that is tied up in stocks. And here's the thing, if Jeff Bezos cashed out some of those stocks, the rest of the stocks, the amount that they're valued at, changes. So it doesn't really work like that. It isn't like Jeff Bezos has his Scrooge McDuck money bin with $300 billion in it, and Bernie's going to ride in and fucking beat this evil dragon that is Jeff Bezos and take the money back Robin Hood style and give it to people for their healthcare and stuff. Like, I get the arguments for healthcare. I get it. I get, I'm eventually going to have breakdown problems with my health. I have family members who have had breakdown problems with their health. I get that, a lot of people are hurting in the current system. That's not the moral way to fix things. You don't steal from people who have, just because they have. Now, if Jeff Bezos has done something egregious, which Bernie would go on in a Twitter war to, specifically with Elon Musk, because Elon Musk called him out for this. And Bernie said, and Bernie has a fair point, that Elon Musk wasn't complaining when he was getting all of the handouts from the government, when he was getting corporate welfare. Well, if you want to fix that, you end the corporate welfare. That's what libertarians have been saying for fucking ever. You end the corporate welfare, but you don't steal the wealth from people just because they were successful in providing a service. That's not moral. There's absolutely nothing moral about that. In fact, I had to explain this on Twitter. When I had posted that, and I said in quotes, "Useless politician wants to penalize successful people who actually helped out during a pandemic," I got this. What is Bezos doing again? And now looking back on that, I think the obvious answer, it should be obvious, is what the fuck did you do, or what did Bernie do, or what did anyone else do to get a say in how much wealth Jeff Bezos is allowed to have? You can think all day long that it's an obscene amount of money. It's more money than I'll see. I could see in 30,000 lifetimes maybe. But it's not mine. I don't have a say in how much property Jeff Bezos gets to keep just because he has a lot. How much do you make? Do I get a say in how much you get to keep? It's just a basic moral principle that you have to start at to have that kind of a conversation. Once you get to this point where you're like, yeah, okay, that's enough. No, you're not allowed. We're going to cap you that you can't have anymore. I don't understand that line of thinking. Like, the man, I don't know anything about him as a person. Jeff Bezos might be a complete piece of shit. Elon Musk too. The Walton family, they might all be complete pieces of shit. But I don't have a right to their money. I don't have a right to their property. I don't have a right to come and just say, like, man, that's a really nice car. I don't have one. And a lot of people don't have one. So it doesn't matter that you could replace this thing with, 15 seconds of paperwork because you have the money. I'm going to take this thing out of here. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. It really is shit that they teach you in kindergarten. It's not yours. Don't touch it. Anyways, let's move on to our final point here. And this is kind of along the same vein. AOC, which is the younger Lady Bernie. Billionaires need the working class. The working class does not need the billionaires. I actually just retweeted this with some commentary. And this is something I think a lot of people need to, even if you don't agree with me on this stuff, at least kind of understand where people are coming from. Because I'll catch, and I have before, why are you defending billionaires? I'm not defending billionaires as much as I'm defending property rights. Because that's the moral thing to do. Like, property matters. Without property rights, you don't have rights. And rights matter. Even if they are just shit we made up, they are a great starting point for treating people with respect and having peaceful, cooperative societies. Is basically it. To say billionaires need the working class doesn't need billionaires. Now, billionaire is an arbitrary point to start capping people off. Get you cap people off at billionaires, why not cap people off at 500 million? Why not cap people off at 200 million? Why not cap people off at 5 million? So on and so forth. Billion is arbitrary to the point of principle. The point of principle here being that the business owner, the person that, even if they didn't start the company, let's say they just own it. Maybe they bought their way into it after someone else started it up. So somebody started this business. And here's what I said about this. The working class, and I include myself in this because I am working class. I'm not a millionaire. I'm not a billionaire. Shit, I'm not even probably in the upper middle class in the United States. Hell, I might in some measurements be in the lower middle class in the United States. But I said the working class, myself included, benefit tremendously from the systems that are set up, funded, and provided by business owners. So these particular billionaires that Bernie is talking about, those are the people that laid the groundwork and started the businesses. So I also said your skills at mixing drinks, because AOC used to be a bartender before she got an even more useless job in Congress. Your skills at mixing drinks would have been useless without a business owner providing you the products and a bar full of patrons. Am I wrong? I think I'm right. If you're like me, I'm a butcher, okay? That's what I do. You want to talk about blue-collar, middle-class dude? That's what I do for a living, okay? But my ability to cut certain steaks, to utilize my skills as a knife wielder, as someone who works on bandsaws, as someone who does what I do, my skills are limited if I don't have a saw, if I don't have a knife, if I don't have a block to work on, if I don't have product to work with, if I don't have a system set in place here where after I've done my job, it goes to the next person who does their job. That person puts it out. Then the person who rings up the package does their job. Person who puts it in a bag does their job. If I don't have that system set up in place, what do my abilities as a cutter of meat, shall we say? You need the business owners. You need entrepreneurs. You need people that are going to take those scarce resources and make them into something the public wants. There's a reason we all consume the things that we consume. It's because we want them. And if somebody's not good at utilizing those resources, they go out of business and somebody else gets to use the resources and make their stab at it, basically. So to kind of wrap this whole thing up, I've been going on for about 30 minutes now. That's about where I want to cut it. It isn't just the college kids, okay? For all the people that were telling me that 5 years ago, 4 or 3 years ago, it is not just the college kids.